So, last episode or last part of the exploration is, in a way, to treat you as a witness, and in order to explore, I mean, there's always been resistance for obvious reasons, and that's a good thing to your work, since you're exposing or meaning to expose human rights violation, not only in Palestine, but all over the place. But with respect to Israel and Palestine, did you see a difference, or did you experience a difference? And I think I can say yes, but I'll let you answer, in the reception of your work since October 7, or rather since you decided to work on this major report. Difference in many ways, difference in the reception in the media, difference in the type of challenge that you encounter from governments, not only Israeli governments, but Western governments altogether, but also difference in the type of relationship, solidarity, expectation that you have from the people that you work with. So is there a shift there, or is it same old, same old?
There is an escalation and aggravation of patterns that existed already. And of course, the pushback existed before, but we have not experienced the way in which it could be weaponized. And particularly, forensic architecture is now at the heart of what we call the investigative commons. And investigative commons are offices that are usually run by graduates or former students in many places worldwide, in Mexico and in Bogota and in Istanbul and in Ramallah, we talked about, and in about a dozen places worldwide, one of the bigger one of which was Berlin, the organization called Forensis. And actually in Germany, we always had an enormous amount of support because we were working on things that are important for German society, like, the sort of the way in which neo-Nazi or extreme right activism penetrates the police and secret services, and the way in which the people that are supposed to protect people with migrant background are becoming perpetrators. And we exposed several of those in Hanau in relation to the massacre in Hanau in 2020, in relation to what is called the NSU murder spree in the end of the 90s and beginning of the 2000s.
Which was, in a couple of sentences, what?
These were neo-Nazis who were targeting migrants. And in one of the cases, they have two murderers entered an internet cafe in Kassel, run by a family who is from Turkey. And they've murdered the kid, Halit Yozgat, who was, manning the reception. And so far, like any other neo-Nazi attack in Germany of the series that the NSU, the National Socialist Underground, has undertaken, only that in this one, in that internet cafe sat a Verfassungsschutz agent. Verfassungsschutz is like the internal security, it's like the FBI of Germany. So you have an German FBI agent sitting at the site of a Nazi murder, disappears, does not give testimony. What is he doing there? And we've taken that question, we've reconstructed really in physical reality at the House of World Culture. We've got the budget for it. We've built a one-to-one model of the internet cafe. We had the login and logouts of every witness in it. I mean, if you conduct a murder, don't do it in an internet cafe because all the timing is perfectly synchronized like that. And we reenacted it with actors, and we conducted a number of experiments that kind of like really showed that he couldn't, as he claimed, the Secret Service agent, not have heard, seen, or smelled the consequences of this murder. So, but based on that, we were like some kind of darlings of the German art scene. We invited dozens of exhibitions, documenta. There was a lot of funding for our work, and then we moved into investigating the German colonial genocide of Namenov Herero people, etc. And still there was support for that. And when you apply the same evidentiary standard on Palestine after October 7th in Germany, we started to be targeted online and with false allegation in newspapers and in completely ridiculous claims that I myself was anti-Semitic. And it used to be that they were saying to Jews, you are a self-hating Jew, no? That this we know and love, because we are Jews, and some of us hate ourselves for multiplicity of other reasons that are very good. But that was shocking to
go from self-hating Jew to
anti-Semite. And that meant for us, and then the budget and funding for this organization drained down, and effectively its shadow of itself, and likely or possibly going to close very soon.
Your office in Berlin.
The office in Berlin, yeah.
So just to stress it, German society and even German state agencies are liberal enough that they like, to an extent, you to be the darling of the cultural scene when you expose
there.
That's right. When you expose the link between the neo-Nazi and the Secret Service, when you expose the first genocide of the 20th century committed by the Germans, but when you attack Israel, that's where the buck stops.
That's where the buck stops. And that is where you start understanding that anti-Semitism is something, and the allegation of anti-Semitism that we're experiencing also in the UK and in many places, and Goldsmiths is now the university where we are based, is undergoing through a kind of investigation for anti-Semitism, and I think we are one of they cannot say, but I think we're probably one of the main culprit of that thing. Is becoming something else. It's becoming less about the fact of whether you are a Jewish person, a diaspora Jewish person, and it starts to become a symbol for a kind of a shift, a cultural shift, and a certain cultural shift to the right, in which anti-Semitism is understood as something that is being imported into decent German and European society, that is worked out its old white anti-Semitism, and it becomes a problem of migration. No, so it becomes and then after October 7th, the Palestinians that come into Germany that are the epitome of a new kind of anti-Semitism that Germany has otherwise gotten rid of, and those others, liberals that support migration or people who are joining the Palestine liberation struggle, are by definition part of that anti-Semitism. And it stops becoming necessarily about Jews even. No, it becomes everything about migration. And it becomes everything about national identity of Germans as Germans, the uniqueness of German held through the identity as perpetrators that is being questioned, i.e. the Germanness is being questioned. It's not even about protection of Jews. How, on the eve of Kristallnacht, on November 2023, they're trying to legislate a set of rules for the protection of Jewish life in Germany that actually impose limitation on migration, or nationalization of migrant, test and all sort of other repressive moves towards migrant that would obviously make Jewish life in Germany more precarious. Because if you are the reason for those things to be legislated, you're going to pay the consequences of that. So that is not about Jewish safety. It's all about Germans' own identity, the German uniqueness, the German burden. German burden become their defining characteristics that would allow a certain thing to be. And Israel celebrates it, promotes it, etc. So, and we were caught in a storm that was much bigger than us, and the consequences we were kind of bearing, at least in Germany, on our ability to do. The funny thing is that the German office, forensics, did not even do work on Gaza. We did one small project about German arm import or export to Israel, and which was mobilized in legal cases and delayed some arms export, which was very good. But that was a minor project. Most work on Palestine are done from London and from Ramallah, and the work that they were willing to give up the work that they were really appreciating because of our kind of position on Palestine. It's another question. There's a whole German neurosis going on now to do with their own identity and dealing with society and migration that is very troubling and has multi layers that I don't know that we can unpack here. But that was maybe the most important consequence. Also, I should say that things have changed in the open source community. So we started the conversation saying that, the open source was a kind of a disruptor of traditional journalism, of traditional human rights, of international law. I became an advisor even on the ICJ on the ICC, the International Criminal Court in The Hague, about new kinds of evidence and how they can reformulate or add to legal processes.
You're still associated with the ICC.
Yeah, and slowly, like any kind of thing that emerges out of combination of political activism and a kind of technological know-how and aesthetic innovation that was something fresh and new, it started to be hoovered initially by corporate media, what today is called legacy media. The New York Times, Washington Post, BBC, others were kind of taking Bellingcat and forensic architecture technique. You see them everywhere now. They become mainstream. Then also secret services and militaries and police forces have started adopting it. And what has become as a radical practice turned into a system of technique that is anything but, and really not even open source, because the New York Times would not even share with other investigators the kind of the source material in a way that we would do that. And the politics is also gone with it, and people who were previously, because of that hoovering in of that, the kind of the initial radical spark of that technique by corporate media and state organizations, people became reluctant to share material online, and in Palestine particularly, if you film an Israeli soldier shooting a Palestinian in the West Bank and you upload it, they would trace back. They would do a kind of a forensic, walk-back forensics and find you, and you'd be arrested at best. Or if your CCTV camera on your shop captures something, they'll smash into it, break everything, take the hard drive, etc. So people stop uploading online. We are now at an environment that we theorize as post-open source. It's not that there is no, the absolute number of things online is not growing all the time. It does grow all the time, but the critical material that is operational to kind of show something is happening is only given to people that the person that has recorded it trusts. When we investigated the Israeli targeted killing of Shirin Abu Akleh, perhaps the most well-known Palestinian journalist from Al Jazeera, the anchor of Al Jazeera Arabic News, who's documenting day in, day out the crimes of the occupation, was shot in Jenin in May 2022. There was a video with which we have finally made that reconstruction that was only given to Al-Haq, because they are part of the Palestine liberation struggle. So you cannot do when the open source has been contaminated with bad actors, the sharing is being restricted, and this is part of the reason why we fragmented into all those organizations that are back on site, in Mexico, in Bogota, in Istanbul, in Athens, in all those places where we are doing this work.